the great Eoin Cody from Kilkenny, twice Young Hurler of the Year. He's beside me as well. Owen's been one of the mainstays of the Kilkenny hurling team for the last number of years. I have Marcus Lawlor, my namesake, multinational champion, represented us in all the major championships, including Tokyo as well. Great to have you with us as well, Marcus. And then Katie Power, well, one of the Camogie greats, one of the greatest players of all time, Kilkenny Camogie Captain, and a long innings for you, Katie, at this stage. But you're still so young and you still have so much more to give. And we're here to talk about peak performance in sport. And all the guys here come from very different backgrounds, but I suppose reading your stories, you all share one thing, and it's maybe that resilience factor. And I might start with you, Marcus, because your career, like, I know you tried all sports when you were younger, and you settled on athletics. It's in your family as well, so maybe there was no avoiding it. But just reading through your story and maybe interviews you've done over the years, once an injury comes, it can upset all your best plans. And for anybody to get near peak performance, is that resilience factor a huge thing?
Yeah, I suppose I was just chatting to the guys there earlier, and to give people context, I suppose in the room, I went to the Tokyo 2021 Olympic Games, and I got eliminated in my heat. I finished 29th maybe overall, and I left Tokyo and I said, I'll be back in Paris in 3 years. And I didn't even get on the plane. Injuries, pull groins, Achilles, all went wrong and pear-shaped. But I suppose that's sport, and it took me the following year after Paris, it took me 5 years to break my 100-metre PB again. So I suppose Damian's mentioned resilience. I think it's really important that we keep showing up and turning up and keep knocking down the door. And I'm 30 now. People keep saying I'm experienced. I suppose it's a way of saying I'm old. But I PB'd last year, and it took 5 years to get back to that level. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. We'll definitely come back to that in a moment. Katie, I wanted to maybe go on your story as well, because like there's nothing in the game that you haven't seen. But like Marcus, injuries came for you as well. And I know with your business and with your kind of professional qualifications, you're in a better position maybe to handle it than others. But even from stuff like broken fingers to knee injuries, how much of a setback were they for you along your journey?
Yeah, I suppose like Marcus says, in sport in general, there's going to be huge setbacks for individuals, and it's just about how you react to it. And I suppose in my own career, maybe, as I've progressed over the years, every time I seem to get an injury, it might be just a little bit worse than the time previous. So, things like that, maybe if it wasn't as serious as the time previous, it might knock you as much. And sometimes it mightn't even be the physical aspect to it. It might be the mental aspect. You could be out training on your own for 8, 9, 10 months, whereas you're used to training in the team environment. So, I suppose the easy option is to, throw your hat at it and, maybe blame others and, take that option in terms of, are you going to put in the effort to try get back? And, thankfully I have a good mindset and good people around me to try push me on. And, we're not going to be able to play our sport or field of sport forever. So trying to get the best out of it when you can, I suppose.
Yeah, and I'll come back again, Katie, just to see what your routine and schedules are like as well. Owen, from meeting you in the sideline over the last few years, like from a very young age, I suppose people knew of you and there's expectation there. You've got a huge campaign with your club the moment the county ends and vice versa. And again, like, you can't take it for granted. You're 6 or 7 years down the road now, but a few soft tissue injuries these days can nearly end an inter-county season. And when that knocks on your doorstep, especially with a game like hurling where your touch has to be so sharp, do you find it challenging to get to the levels that you expect of yourself?
Damian, I suppose now that I've been asked this question over the last couple of weeks with the club hurling as well about the split season, and for me this year, unfortunately, was to pick up an injury which was out for 6 weeks, which was nearly the whole inter-county campaign there from the championship. And then even I just see from the club perspective at the moment, it's just so rushed, and whatever about me, I don't take sympathy on myself, but for what I look at now is the club players that are training from February to hurl competitive games within a space of 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and to pick up one player from Kilkenny I know specifically picked up an injury in the very first week after training all year for it and just missed the whole club campaign. So it's not easy. Just one small, as you said, one small tear, and you're missing the whole year of competitive hurling, which is really, it's not easy on lads, and probably adding to the fact why people are maybe heading off abroad and probably losing maybe the love for hurling that I've seen over previous years.
And that's understandable as well, because with all your friends and colleagues going away, and you're left there to live with it. And Marcus, you might pick up on this as well. In terms of the obsession you have with the game, for you to do a PB 5 years on, absolutely incredible to my mind. It shows the lads what can be achieved and what can be overcome. Can you talk to me about the challenges you faced mentally to get back to that level?
Yeah, it's a funny one. I'm smiling because I suppose obsession is the right word. In a way, it's I suppose you keep knocking the door, and it's almost crazy. But I just believe in keep turning up and keep showing up. You know, I think it was very easy to say, I suppose, throw my hat at it, like Katie had mentioned already. But I think it's really important not to do that. I think you just don't know what's around the corner, and keep doing the right things all the time. Damian, you mentioned the mentality, I suppose, and Katie mentioned already. It's by surrounding yourself with good people, I suppose, as well. It's very hard to do things on your own, you know. Yeah. And I think when you have those good people around you, it makes it, you know, you have that help and support and guidance, and it's a bit. I won't say it makes it easier, but it steadies your ship a little bit, and it's good to have a steady hand on it, you know.
Marcus, did you strip everything back around the time that you decided you were going to go again, full assault on this? Did you? Coaching, family, diet, nutrition, did you look at absolutely everything?
Yeah, and sometimes we can pull our hair out, and you know, you really kind of have head scratchers. You're kind of like, you know, I'm doing absolutely everything. And I think sometimes if you just take that little step back, yes, you look at everything, you look at your nutrition, you look at sports psychology, your mental, everything, but oftentimes it boils back to the basics, you know, and doing the simple things really, really well. And I think that applies to everything, not just sport, but life, you know. And I think if you do the basics well and you do the simple things well, you know, you'll go far. So,
would you go along with that, Katie?
Yeah, 100%. Like you can read into things a huge amount and look for those small percentages in different areas, and you know, maybe the more confusing aspects that we'd be looking for as athletes. But I think Marcus has hit it on the head. Like if we just look at the basic things to got us to where we started from, and if you got them close to 100% as you can, you could probably move on to the more complicated things from there. But I think, you know, I suppose since I started playing camogie anyway, it's easy to get maybe caught up in those, you know, bigger and flashier things maybe, and it's the social media side of things as well. Like maybe that wasn't there 10, 15 years ago as much, but you know, if you nail your 4 or 5 basics and go back to maybe, you know, understanding why we do this, like rather than we have to do this, I think things, you know, maybe click together a little bit easier then from there.
That sounds so easy, Eoin, doesn't it? Like, but in every walk of life that you go to, you talk to anybody who's successful, and they say, "I do the basics well." Like, I haven't managed that now too handily myself, but if you can strive for that, you're on the right track, I'd say.
Yeah, no, the lads hit the nail on the head there, 100%. Even for myself, I find, as Katie said, they're chasing maybe the 1% and the 0.5%, where when you're kind of at that stage, you're probably gone too far, where you need to go back and start focusing on the bigger picture, the things you do well, and maybe do them, keep doing them well, keep doing them, keep improving on them, rather than going after things that maybe you think you can improve on a small bit to pick up your game at the small percentage. Whereas if you're hitting the things that make your game strongest and you're doing them day in, day out, I think that's where the key is. That's the key to success. And sometimes when you're really pushing yourself to be better, it's hard to get caught up in them things as well.
Yeah, it is for sure. If you have any questions, guys, just raise your hands as well. I have a question for you, Marcus. The word enjoyment, where does that fit in? It has to fit in somewhere, but it's making hard to get it at times.
Yeah, it fits in everywhere. I've been guilty of probably not enjoying it in the past, and I suppose kind of touching on what we just talked about, when you're focusing in on trying to do all the right things all the time, and you have to enjoy what you're doing. And I suppose the game plan for me going into an Olympic Games, I said this often 3 or 4 years ago, my game plan was to run with a smile on my face. And if that wasn't happening for me, I wasn't going to run well, because then it just becomes too much pressure. You're tense, nothing's flowing. So I think enjoyment is everything, Damian. You have to be. I'm watching the guys playing out in Croke Park or whatever, and they're able to kind of express themselves as well. And I think that's part of it too. Obviously we have our skills, and look, you know more about the GA than I do. But I think when I'm on the track and when you're on the pitch, I suppose when we're enjoying it and when we're smiling, we're expressing ourselves, and then that's the best performance.
When you got to the Olympics the first time, Marcus, did anything blow your mind? Was there anything there that you thought you had trained hard for, but maybe when you arrived there was completely different?
No, I was prepared for all eventualities, and when you're talking about planning and preparation, I had a contingency plan for every possible thing that could go wrong and was going right. So I was very much prepared for. The only thing that maybe did caught me was I didn't get to visit the stadium before my race. So when I did walk out into the big arena, I was kind of like, wow. But it was just a case of taking that in, actually accepting the fact that, you're in this really lovely arena, and then it's back in focus to mind. So,
Just with your sport then, Katie, the game of camogie has gone so physical, so competitive in the last few years alone. Did you have to tailor your whole approach to the changing game? Say a few years ago, referees were blown 3 times a minute, but now the game flows an awful lot more as well.
Well, I suppose it was something that was being cried out for such a long time. We would train to be physically strong, fit, as fast as we possibly can, and back those couple of years ago, as you said, it was extremely frustrating to go out in a game and you might barely swipe off someone and it was a free, but that girl is as strong as you. So to be honest, it hasn't changed a huge amount in our training, because we still train to that degree in terms of being as strong and as fast as we can to get around the field. But definitely for the game of camogie itself, regardless if you're from Kilkenny or Cork or Galway, it's only after getting better because of those reasons, and hopefully continue to improve over the next few years.
Yeah, and just for people who don't know, Katie had a broken kneecap at one stage in your career as well, and I think I'm right in saying that, aren't I? I mean, how do you even come back to the levels that you once reached, Katie?
I actually broke the 2 kneecaps.
2 kneecaps, Jesus.
Doesn't sound great.
So you can multiply the question by 2.
I suppose, I don't know really, I get asked this question a good few times, and I suppose it's just down to, your bit of desire inside yourself in terms of what you want to achieve, and as a camogie player, I want to, get the best out of myself and, achieve as much as I can when I'm there. And, when you're from Kilkenny, you're never going to be too far away from a semi-final or a final. We're lucky enough in hurling and camogie that we're always going to be thereabouts at the business end of the year. So, I knew if I just put in the work, it's more, as I said, it's more of a mental thing than a physical thing, and you'll have your good days and your bad days, but as Boy said, it's just about turning up on the bad days and getting through it, because the easy option is to throw in your hat and the hard option is to stay going. And maybe I'm built for a bit of hardship, I don't know, but look, I'm happy enough I got through it anyway.
Yeah, and it's important to trust yourself along the way, Eoin. The coach and manual will say one thing, but I'd say you all have your own little ways and means of doing things. It's stuff that suits you, but the coaches mightn't necessarily think it's the best thing in the world.
I suppose I always tell kids when I go around to say clubs and stuff, if we're going around just to teams after match, under 10s, under 8s, under 6s, just as long as you're enjoying it, and do what you like. I wouldn't ever tell a child going down to pitch that to stay at hurling and do what their parents tell them. I just tell them, if you enjoy coming down to the pitch, enjoying pucking with your friends, enjoying playing with your club, playing with your friends, just keep doing it, whether it's hurling or soccer, or if it's running, just do what you like and what makes you happy. But in terms of just doing what you want as well, in training, obviously you have your own body, you know how you feel. Maybe when you're younger, you kind of do maybe too much, and you don't really realise what you're doing. But as where I probably look at TJ since day one, whether it's with the club or Kilkenny, and I look at how he looks after himself in terms of before trainings, during trainings, after trainings, in the gym, and that really gives me, I suppose, an advantage maybe over different club players and county players around the country, because he's the pinnacle really of the sport. So I have had that advantage. I was 16, 17 going over to the local GA club, and just watching TJ how he approaches everything, and then for me it's just about copy and pasting that and maybe adding my own thing to it as well.
And a bit like the Trevi, TJ kind of had like 2 careers within a career as well, Owen. Like he turned into just an absolute machine, and it's his profession as well. But is it just that kind of everyday approach he has to his life? Like I'd say he stretches, I say he foam rolls, water, nutrition. I don't know how he gets time for it, but it's all done.
Yeah, he doesn't do too much else, I'd say. But yeah, look, he like unfortunately, like Katie, he broke his kneecap against Galway in the 2012 replay, and then he kind of transformed his game after that. He got really big into the gym, and kind of I think he went one-on-one with kind of a strength and conditioning coach, and went into the gym kind of side things himself, and then rather than being told what to do, he was kind of after learning himself what was best to do and how to look after his own body, and then probably through trials and tribulations he probably discovered what was best for himself. And he's just like that now. Look, he trusts his own body, trusts his own work, doesn't put himself too hard on off the pitch at times when he needs that, you know. He looks after himself and makes sure he's ready for the peak performance then on All-Ireland Sunday or whenever it is.
Sure, he can keep going the way he is for the foreseeable future anyway. It's there's no doubt in that. But do you set targets for yourself, both of you guys? Visualization, is that something you work with? Is it important, Katie?
Probably more for an individual sport. Maybe I'm not.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. Now, don't get me wrong. You would set targets for yourself in a game, or you know, what I like to do is write down a few points before a game, and you know, they're not just basic points of working hard. Like, you know, whatever position I'm playing in, you know, it might be 3 or 4 things, and maybe I'd look at them just before we run out in the field again. But you know, I think when you play a team sport, obviously the end goal is for your team to, you know, win the trophy at the end of the year, whether it's club or county. And unfortunately, only one team can win, so there's a lot of teams disappointed. But maybe more for individual sports that, you know, Marcus might set different things than us.
You're right, it's hard to visualise in GAA when somebody's going to come in and land you with a shoulder within 5 seconds. But what about yourself, Marcus? Is visualisation important for your training?
Yeah, well, thankfully I'm running in my own lane most of the time, so I don't have to worry about that. But yeah, like there is moments where I suppose you're kind of not replaying, but future playing the race in your head of how you're going to come off that bend and how you're going to attack that home straight, and you can really kind of put yourself on the track, and you might actually be sitting in the couch. And it's actually funny, I was doing visualization earlier last year, Damian, and I was actually just sitting on the couch and I was visualizing the 400 because you probably saw in the Paris Olympics, you know, the relays are getting a lot of traction now at the minute, the 4x4, and I said I'll try throw my name in the hat here. So I gave a go at 400s at indoors, but I ended up getting on the team that went to the European indoors, the mixed relay that was 4x4. We were 5th earlier in February. But I was sitting at home and I was visualising the 400, and because it's so long, I was in the last 100 metres in my sitting room at home, and my heart rate started to heighten, you know, because I was actually in the race, and it was amazing. So there is definitely something in that. I think, you know, putting yourself in those positions.
Yeah,
you know,
there has to be.
Yeah.
Is there something to be said for a bit of balance as well, Owen? It's hard for you living where you live to get away from hurling. I know that, but even with your time in the college here, getting your degrees and stuff like that, just to have a plan B as well, and maybe a release valve.
It's obviously it's vital. Probably not the best for it, and it's probably somewhere I always try and improve on, because I'm probably nearly too driven at times, and as you've probably seen here, the lads are very similar, and sometimes it's the worst thing you can be, because you're just driving yourself insane and mental at home, just wanting to win, wanting to improve. But yeah, look, in terms of college life in Carlow, it was great. I got to get away from home up to I was in SETU Carlow, so up to the lads, and I spent the day just making new friends and getting involved in obviously learning as well. So it was great. Then yeah, it's very important, and even our psychologists and stuff with Kenny would always say, once you're off the pitch, you're off it, and try and your family is my family is very important to me as well. So and that probably my biggest off the pitch is probably my biggest thing to really get my mind off hurling, and as well as take my mind off hurling, it kind of helps me remember why I do it as well, because I have lots of younger cousins and stuff that look up to me, and I'm trying to be an idol for them as, I suppose, my uncles and people before me in Ballyhale have been to me, so that's what it's kind of all about.
Well, you're certainly that, and just regards maybe the opposite to you then, Marcus, whereby time is important. You have certain goals you want to achieve now, and I'd say, is it flat out for you the next few years, devoting every fibre of yourself to what you want to achieve? And I suppose, would you mind even sharing us what your hopes are for the future?
Yeah, I think Eoin hit it fairly well on the head there. It is important to, when you are off the track, to be off the track as well. And you know, I think, yeah, we're 11 months of the year and we're tuned in for that 11 months really. There is little break periods now, and right now I'm on a break. I was actually hoping to be in Tokyo at the World Championships, but I'm here talking to you guys, so...
sorry about that.
No, so that was one of the goals, but I won't... I won't let that kind of deter me as well. I suppose going forward, you have European Championships next year, and I do want to hang around for another 2 or 3 years, at least another Olympic cycle, and you know, aim for that LA Olympics again and try to get back there. It's obviously going to be very difficult. The standard in athletics has gone through the roof, but I think we have to all up our games with that. So yeah, look, it's an 11 months of the year thing, and you are tuned into that. So yeah.
How do you find that, Katie? Because like, anybody mentions the name Katie Power, just the word camogie just comes up straight away, and like, that's a fantastic thing, don't get me wrong, but you have more to your life as well. And how does that sit with you, the identity piece as a high performer?
I don't know, like I'd never really see that, to be honest. I'd never like would have known that people would think like that. I just think I'm just Katie Power, and I go about my day-to-day life as normal. Like camogie hurling athletics is a huge aspect of all our lives, and it has been for so long. And I suppose exactly what the lads said without repeating it, like, it is so important because we live and breathe in it, and we're in such a bubble for 10, 11, 12 months of the year. To have something outside of that, and maybe, you know, when we're so immersed in something so serious for so long, the simple pleasures give us, you know, great satisfaction. Like as Eoin said, your family, like we wouldn't be here without them. And it's what those simple things that literally do make you like understand, like we are here because of our parents and the people before us, and we're trying to be idols for the youngsters in our club. And you know, again, I don't want to be repeating what the lads said, but it's just, you know, when you're so hard pressed on something and you're pushing so hard for something for so long, it's those simple things that gives you great joy outside of it then as well. I'm
listening to the trivia, and the kind of the expression that keeps coming up is keep showing up. Like, I mean, you guys have been so close in the last couple of years, there's no doubt about that. You're so, I suppose, without being patronising about it, you're so close to getting to where you want to get to. Is it just to keep showing up and just keep doing the very, very best you can to prepare yourself and your teammates, and be there when the opportunity arises?
Yeah.
And hope the scoreboard works right in Crow Park as well.
That help, all right. But yeah, look, it hurts. It really does, I suppose. I'm nearly there 6 years now. Kind of go from being one of the young lads on the block now to, you know, one of the experienced lads, and it just kind of happens overnight, really. And that kind of satisfaction of just being with Kilkenny and giving it your all, it nearly is not good enough anymore, and like really want to win, you know. Been in the dressing room, as I said, 6-7 years with the same goals every year, and just come short, all Ireland semi-final, all Ireland finals, knowing that we're good enough to do it, but we just haven't done it yet. We've got ourselves in positions, lots of teams that went on and won it. So it does hurt, but at the end of the day, that's sport, and there's a winner and there's a loser, and it's up to us to be on the winning side the next stage, you know. So it's all about putting head down and going again for 2026. So
you've been there, but you've come back around then to set your own personal best. So just before we wrap up the conversation, Marcus, like, what are the key phrases? Like, I've listed 10 or 12 things here, but I'd like to hear, just if you were summarising what peak performance is, what kind of labels or terms would you come up with? And we've heard you talk about a few of them.
Yeah, I think one of them is a game plan. I suppose it's funny, the game plan going into the biggest race of your life is to run with a smile on your face, and I think it really, really helped around the season's best that day. So I think enjoyment is the key thing, and I think that's for everything. And I suppose the second thing is we can be in search of this silver bullet, and I suppose the little secret, and I suppose the key message is that there is no secret. It's hard work, it's perseverance, it's diligence, it's doing the simple things right, the basics things right, and I think that would be I suppose those two things would be the key for me, Damian, and maybe the others will agree, but yeah,
they're brilliant descriptions as well, Katie. Would you add anything to that? Like, is it important to have good advice coming your way as well? And what would you throw into the mix?
I suppose I'd have probably two things. One is to trust yourself, and the next one would be like hunger to achieve what you want to achieve. Like, so, you know, it's easy for someone else to tell you what, you know, Marcus would probably, you know, back me up on this. Like, he might have coaches setting him certain standards, but he might want to set his own standards, and the same for myself. But, you know, outside sport, like, if you're hungry to achieve something, I think it's that hard work that you put in, and, you know, going out in the field, like if you're marking, you know, if I was marking Eoin Cody, thinking that I'm after working way harder than him in my preparation for the game, and, you know, again, that comes down to your own willingness to be hungry enough to do that. So, you know, I suppose again it's a very basic thing, but if you know you're after working that little bit more, you know, on those more difficult things than anyone else around you, you know, you might have that little bit of a head start.
Yeah, you're giving yourself the best chance. And when you first came on the scene, you're like you weren't as well built as you are now. You know, it's not fair to say, and I mean that as a huge compliment. Like, you were a pure hurler, like, and the game has changed just incredibly over the last few years, and you kind of have to keep meeting that year in, year out. Is that just sport, an ever-changing landscape, Owen, and the athletes have to meet the environment around them then?
I don't know. I think obviously I was younger then, and it's just the hard work kind of has started from there on. I look at, like, when I came in first to Kilkenny, I probably had never done a gym session, whereas now the kids are doing them from under 14. Like, it's mental. So if you're going to fill out, you're going to be size. But yeah, for me, it was the raw for hurling. You know, I think it's something I probably have to look at and kind of go back to. And I think Henry obviously is manager of Ballyhale this year, and the first thing he said to me when I went back to the club is you need to find that again a small bit and just go out and hurl and just enjoy it. That's what I do. I want to go out and I want to play hurl, not go in and lift weights. So when I'm on the pitch, I need to go out and start just enjoying it a bit more, and yeah, enjoy the hurling. As Marcus said there, that, like I said at the start, the main thing for me is hurling, and I think you could have just had one of us up here because our answers have been pretty repetitive, because I think we probably all have very similar mindsets, and that's just winning and hard work, and you probably heard it here in the crowd because we pretty much said the exact same things over and over again.
Yeah, so something else as well, I know I probably should have mentioned it, but when it was mentioned already, is that, like, surrounding yourself with good people, and like you've already mentioned that with the community and stuff as well, and other people around you. But in anything, you know, never be afraid to ask for that little bit of help as well. Like, I wouldn't, you know, like, reach out and ask someone, you know, it's you have to surround yourself with good people, and I know, and you went through Carlo as well, but like, I suppose being a scholarship student in the college coming up as well, like, it was important to put that team around you as well. And even when we left college as well, that there was still those good people around us, and I think that's important. But again, not just sport, you know, anything, you know.
That's brilliant, and I'm going to leave the conversation on this. You all talk about the smile on your face. Like, the biggest example of that to me this year was David Clifford playing for Kerry. Now, the rules of the game changed, so he was a free bird again, but did you cop the way, the levels he reached, and the smile on his face, and the way he celebrated scores as well? I don't know if he saw it at all. Did you see it, Katie, during the season?
Yeah, sure. It was unreal to see. Like, I suppose the last few years in the football, like, it was probably hard for any forward to express themselves as good as they could, and like, he's probably once in a generational player that we'd always be looking up to and looking at on the television. But like, he epitomised that this year, as you said. Like, you know, I know we've talked about like enjoying it and the smile on your face, but even the way he celebrated just a one-pointer in a Munster Championship game, like, it just shows, you know, how happy he was to be out there representing his county.
And David Gillick did that a few years ago as well, Marcus. Like, whatever he built up inside his head, when he won a couple of European sprints, I think, all the emotion came raging out at him. He wasn't afraid to get it out there either.
Yeah, and I think that's expressing yourself, you know, and you can really see that, and especially, I suppose, David Clifford's performances, David Gillick, anyone that you can see it, I suppose, in the people. But I suppose we're saying all that as well, and we are talking about peak performance. There is an element of kind of rootlessness and selfishness as well required too. So I'm saying smile on your face and enjoyment, but there is that hunger in there as well, and that kind of drive that is definitely present too.
But there has to be, doesn't there,
yeah.
Owen? It's not the nicest thing to say, but for any performer like you, there has to be that selfishness.
You know, absolutely. And in terms of dress rooms and stuff, you see there's lads there that has all the potential in the world, and you just can't get through to them about just putting the head down, working hard, and a bit of discipline, and saying no to a takeaway at the weekend every now and again, and things like that. It's just, there's lads there love to shake in the dressing room at home in Ballyhale, that that they're good enough to be the best hurler in the world, but it's just that drive is just lacking there, and that's I suppose what's the difference between making it and not making it. That because there's so many people out there that you probably asked the two lads here that they know had all the talent in the world, probably going up a side and they're like, these lads could be the best to do it, and they just didn't have it up there, and I think that's really the difference between making it and not making it.
Yeah, that's brilliantly said. Any questions from the floor before we wrap it up, guys? We have a question.
As younger kids, would you have been into all sports, or was it always very focused on just a singular activity? At what age, or did you decide you have to just go for this? And
yeah, no, I can start off. When I was younger, I played everything. Yeah, anything I could. Love all the sports. Yeah, anything at all. Still now I watch every sport, but dedicate 100% of my time to hurling. Obviously, even in the off season, I love to go off and play a game of soccer or anything at all. But if Derek got word of it, he mightn't be too happy. No, I think it's really important. And even from being in college and the course I did a sports and business course, and just from being around S&Cs and all different it's very important for kids in their development, and even just running and small things like that, hand-eye coordination, their development, that they are doing all different sports, not just one. So for me, I did everything I put my hands on. I was that kind of a child.
Yeah, I would have done everything as well. Community games is a big one. We were, playing GAA was a big one for me as well. And to give a little bit of context around that, in 2013, I went to a European Junior 200-metre final. I finished in 4th place behind 3 British athletes, and 1 month later, I was in a county final, a minor county final. So.
That's great. That's great, Mark.
Yeah, it is, and I had to call it then. I wasn't part of that team, that minor team, throughout the year. I obviously good friends, and they're still playing senior now at club level. And for me, I hadn't been part of that team. I focused on athletics to get to my European Junior final, and then I went back to play after that. But then I had to focus in, and I'm a follower of all sports as well, and I think I'd love to go out and play a game of soccer or, football, but just the injury risk for me is too high. But I think growing up, I think it's important to do all the different sports, and whether that's GAA, soccer, rugby, athletics, all the above.
And Katie, the research would show it is important to do that. Like how the multi-sport model is in Ballyhale, I don't know how you get away with anything except hurling. But I suppose overall, outside of Ballyhale, all the academics, all the data suggests try everything and then specialise as you get a little bit older.
Yeah, for sure. As Lad said, I did everything when you're young, and it comes in age, maybe 16, you got called up to the senior team, and that's it. You have to put all your focus and all your eggs in one basket if you want to try make that. But I think it's especially important for any kids growing up to try everything, and maybe not just what their parents or their grandparents want them to do, just to figure out what they enjoy most, and then they'll find their own way from there for sure. But even the thing like Eoin said, running, hand-eye coordination, you're not going to get that just maybe from one specific sport. And if you're trying out a few different things, that that might integrate into your own sport to make it even better.
Yeah, a little bit of bias towards my own sport, athletics. I love athletics because you can run, you can jump, you can throw, you can walk. So I suppose my bias towards my own sport, and an encouragement to the younger people in the room. I see in Athletics Ireland top in the background there. Get involved, because there is a variety there, and I think it's very important that, again, like the lads said, hand-eye coordination, balance, skill, all the rest. And I think athletics is a great sport for that.
Yeah, variety is another word. So any final questions, guys? We've had a lovely chat. I have to say, I have one wish for the three of you, that your best days are ahead still, certainly in terms of sport as well. Could you give a huge round of applause, please, to Marcus, Katie and Eoin as well. And just to thank the team at SETU and thank Cathy and all her colleagues as well, and hope you have an enjoyable day. And the main thing is the tent hasn't blown away yet, so all of you. Thank you so much for your time.